The so-called new normal keeps changing.
Moscow is clearing up after what's being called the worst storm here in 100 years.
The hurricane, reaching up to 80 kilometers per hour, was the deadliest.
In the storm that brought high winds, hail and heavy rain. The BBC noted reports of winds up to 70 miles per hour.
With long, cold winters, Moscow is used to harsh weather, but it's not used to this.
We follow two young journalists to Somalia, where terrorism, armed conflict, drought and famine threaten everyday life.
Watson had taken these images of Somalia in the 1980s, which show a country lush with life.
In my 45 years, I've never seen this kind of a drought that has killed our animals. It's the worst one.
Sending floodwater cascading through towns and villages in southwestern Sri Lanka.
And Cyclone Mora showed it no mercy when it hit southeast Bangladesh.
We are used to rains and flooding in our area, but this year it has been unusual. We have never experienced such floods in 70 years.
Death and destruction on a scale not seen.
In a cruel twist, the land which just weeks ago was cracking with drought is now dangerously unstable.
Oh my God! Woo!
A ferocious storm in South Africa has left at least 8 people dead.
12-metre waves pummeled the coast, flipping cars.
More were slammed by smashing waves during the city's worst storm in 3 decades.
Cape Town has lately been suffering one of the most severe droughts in years. Meanwhile, in Knysna, authorities are struggling to control another natural disaster, a wildfire.
And as the city of Cape Town deals with the aftermath of Wednesday's freak storm, firefighters in the town of Knysna, about 500 kilometers away, are battling a deadly inferno.
Absolute scenes of devastation, and many are so shell-shocked here.
But it's a modern reality of the El Niño world we live in, where weather patterns are extreme, and I'm afraid Cape Town has taken a pummeling these last 24 hours.
So this is act of God territory. This is not something that you can do much about, you just have to roll with it.
The thing that's also we should realize, the number of natural disasters that we've had and natural challenges that the world's faced has actually increased at a significantly higher rate. There has been a change.
Waiting for a war to end while disease takes hold. It's not just Yemen's civil war that's taking lives.
A cholera outbreak ravaging Yemen, and it's spreading in an unprecedented manner, says the World Health Organization.
The number of infections has soared.
In the last 2 days, more than 13,700 cases have been registered in 19 counties. It's a very large and alarming number.
It's one of the world's most fatal and rare diseases. Its last outbreak in West Africa killed more than 11,000 people. Now, Ebola appears to be back, but this time heading east to the Democratic Republic of Congo.
With that, I just want to start by saying that we are experiencing a non-stop onslaught of viral diseases emerging from nature. Just to recap some of the highlights from the last 6 years, I'll remind you that in 2012, you started hearing about MERS on NPR. And then in 2014, it was Ebola. In 2015, it was Zika. 16, we now have, if you don't know, a very scary bird flu circulating in China. And you wouldn't know this because our press apparently doesn't talk about anything but Donald Trump anymore. But there's actually a huge yellow fever virus outbreak going on in Brazil, to the extent that 19 million doses of vaccine have just been mobilized in that country.
Brazil is facing its worst yellow fever outbreak in 40 years. There are nearly 600 confirmed cases in humans, a 1,400% increase from last year.
So there is a lot going on.
Lyme disease is already on the rise nationwide.
We've seen the number of cases triple in the United States.
Tick-borne illnesses are on the rise across the country, not just in a specific region.
In a year expected to be one of the worst yet for Lyme disease.
But experts say there is another disease to watch out for this year.
The CDC says a parasite is infiltrating pools in the valley at an alarming rate.
Crypto cases linked to pools and water playgrounds increased twofold.
Nationally, sexually transmitted diseases are on the rise.
Bell County is continuing to see some of the highest STD rates in the state.
There's been a 40% increase in syphilis in the last year, and that's just in Virginia.
And Mississippi is not an exception. The number of cases have more than doubled in 3 years.
And while chlamydia and gonorrhea are treatable, they are evolving.
To the 1930s, with what we used then, there's been a steady resistance that has developed in that particular organism.
Meaning the medication is slowly losing its ability to cure the disease.
So that's really concerning because as it stands right now, that's kind of our last option for treatment of that particular infection.
We're not talking about a slight increase. There's a horrifying surge in drug overdoses in the United States of America.
And they continue to climb every year.
It's the greatest public health crisis of our generation.
Now, listen to this. Overdoses are now the leading cause of death for Americans under the age of 50.
Public health authorities in central and southern Georgia have never seen anything like it. Dozens of drug overdoses in just 48 hours.
Just a week before the one-year anniversary of the Pulse nightclub attack, yet another terrifying scene unfolding inside of an Orlando business.
Today's violence part of a growing problem. The most recent statistics show workplace shootings rose by 15% in 2015.
As a single incident, the London Bridge attack has sent a shockwave through a normally resilient city. What makes it worse is the growing concern that things like this keep happening, and nobody can stop them.
Court in Taiwan has ruled in favor of gay marriage, a landmark decision paving the way for the island to become the first place in Asia to legalize same-sex unions.
The judges ruled on a constitutional challenge to current laws, which say that marriage is between a man and a woman.
It's not just against the Chinese culture, it's against all the cultures. I mean, once the definition of marriage is changed, I will be affected too. My child is going to live in a whole lot different environment.
Widespread disruption on the island, people trapped in mountainous areas. Heavy rain, which began on Friday, continues to inundate Taiwan.
Cars have flipped over in roaring gale force winds.
And we haven't even had time to talk about Luke 21:25. Words of Jesus. The sea and the waves roaring, not like you've seen before, is what he's saying.